Hello, welcome to another Just the Dis YouTube video. Continuing with my label emphasis, I'm going to talk about a handful of Vinegar Syndrome favorites. These will be varying in, I guess, what some might call quality objectively. You know, there's some of these that people might be like, well, that movie's terrible, but I don't know, these are movies I like. So let me let me start with a movie that's not at all one of those. It's a very good movie, very alarming, and that's Incubus. It's a slip. Really nice slip, actually. Crazy creature. Oh, here's the other artwork. I should have flipped it. I like that too. Here's the disc. So this one is pretty disturbing stuff, but objectively one of the best movies Vinegar Syndrome ever put out, for my money, in terms of the horror, and I don't know, it's just really well done. It is from director John Huff, who did Legend of Hell House, among other things, which is obviously another great, dramatic horror movie. And this one is about a quiet New England town that basically is beset by a series of really grisly murders and assaults. It's really unsettling. The assaults are often preceded or involved with some kind of rape of the victim. It's mostly women, I think, that are being killed, although there are a few male deaths. But there's a couple scenes in this movie that are really tough, I'm going to say, where some women are attacked, and it's hard to watch. So just know that. But that said, the movie as a horror film is really effective. And, there's sort of a mystery about what is this, who's doing these killings, who's attacking these women, and what's happening. And I don't want to give away too much, but I mean, the cover kind of indicates a little something. I mean, it's not human, let's say. Okay. This movie has, let's see here. It has John Cassavetes, who I think helped with the writing of the movie. Like, he and John Huff worked together, and I want to say that's another reason that it's better than you would think a movie from this period. There's just certain disposable horror films from the period this comes from. This is from 1981. There's a lot of slashers, a lot of things that I like, but this one is like a little more. It's like I said, unsettling, disturbing, memorable. Let's see here. An intense and disturbing supernatural slasher. I don't know if I call it slasher, maybe. But yeah, so John Cassavetes stars as a doctor. He's got a daughter. They have a sort of a weird past that is sort of hinted at and comes out a little bit in the movie. The mom is not around. But Cassavetes is really good. Like, he plays it real. He plays it like a doctor would play it if suddenly his town was being sort of overtaken by these horrible murders. And it goes to like an incredibly awesome ending. Like, the ending for me, I'm probably building it up too much, but really effective in the way that it gives you just a final punch. God, I love it. But a really solid movie. I did a podcast episode of Just the Disc with fellow YouTuber Aaron Pinn, and he's a big fan of this too. I highly recommend checking out that episode because we go into much more detail than I'm going to do right now. I'm going to try and be a little quicker about this, but this is a really good movie, and like I said, one of the best Vinegar Syndrome put out. So well worth your time. Unforgettable. Incubus. Next up, Bonkers Town Mausoleum. I think this might be streaming on Shudder if you want to watch it that way, maybe. There's your slip. And cover art. Oh yeah, that's the traditional cover art you're used to seeing on Mausoleum. This movie's crazy. The gnomed family has been the victim of an ancient curse in which the firstborn daughter of each generation has gone violently mad and then suspiciously dies. No one can explain the nomad madness, but some say it's because the possession of a terrible demonic force is in play. This has a consummate blending of early 80s supernatural horror and slasher film tropes. Michael Dugan's Mausoleum is a stylish, sleazy, and outrageously gory production featuring a series of imaginative death scenes orchestrated by effects wizard John Carl Buechler. And starring Bobby Breeze, who was in Ghoulies, or Breezy, and Marjo Gortner. Marjo Gortner, man, oh man. And featuring a moody orchestral score from Jamie Mendoza Nava, Boys of Company C. Yeah, I don't know. Look at some of the stills on the back of this thing here. Woman with demonic green eyes. Look at this stuff, okay? There's a great still that you can look up of this incredible face that Marjo Gortner makes at one point, and that sort of sums up the movie for me. It's just this crazy, almost like, looks like his face is going to blow up. He's just kind of like, blah, you know. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into this one. This is more enjoyed the less you know. I mean, it's like there's kind of a possession thing involved, and there's just some really bonkers stuff. Some character interactions that don't necessarily make sense, but that's totally fine. And yeah, Marjo Gortner as the husband is, I don't know. He really helps make this movie memorable. I'll say that. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep on this one, but it is something special. Really. Again, bonkers. If you like bonkers movies, I'm not going to give you examples of how this is bonkers. Just trust me, it is. And it's worth a look. Mausoleum. All right. More bonkers. Yes. Nightbeast. Don Dohler. Backyard horror auteur. That's what the nice Nightbeast looks like. He always reminds me of the creature in Big Trouble in Little China that kidnaps Kim Cattrall. He looks very much like a cousin to that creature. He's an alien. It says, amidst a dazzling meteor shower, the Nightbeast lands near a small East Coast town armed with his vaporizing ray gun and a goal of killing everyone who crosses his path. As area residents are blasted to smithereens, the local sheriff and ever-dwindling group of survivors become determined to figure out a way to defeat this fearsome alien before their community is wiped out. It says a dazzling display of lo-fi ambition from Baltimore-based cult filmmaker and underrated auteur Don Dohler, who also did The Alien Factor and a movie called Fiend, which I think both of those are on Blu-ray. Fiend is out, I think, from Massacre Video, and I have it, and I've heard it's pretty fun. I think that's another one Aaron Pinn is a fan of. So definitely check out Fiend if you like that regional, low-budget, horror. Don Dohler is very interesting as a filmmaker, but this creature in this movie with his weird look and his ray gun that just disintegrates people, it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's just one of those movies where you're just like, what did I just watch? But I want to watch it again. And this is a good release from Vinegar Syndrome, newly scanned and restored in 2K from its 16mm camera original. Audio commentary with Don Dohler and actor George Stover. An electric performance, an interview with actor Jamie Zemmerell, crashing the set, an interview with visual effects artist John Ellis, shooting the Nightbeast, an interview with cinematographer Richard Gewitz. Nightbeast returns, archival interviews with the cast and crew. It is all region. Look at that. That looks like something bonkers happened right there. And this guy, crazy. I think he's like smiling there. That's what he looks like when he smiles. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. But yeah, no, this one is unforgettable. Again, you'll watch this movie and somebody will say, what's the weirdest movie you've ever seen, or what's a bonkers movie, and this will be in that slot in your head for the rest of your life. Very strange, but a blast. And I love this slip. It's a really nice slip cover. I think all I've got here of slips. Nightbeast. Let's see here now. I guess I'll do this next. The Children. I'm picking all these weird ones. I'm sorry. These are just, I'm drawn to the weird ones. That's what this slip looked like. Pretty cool. That's the cover. Something is terrifyingly wrong with the children of Ravenback. After their school bus passes through a mysterious cloud of yellow smoke, the children are transformed into bloodthirsty zombies with black fingernails which burn anything they touch. As parents and unwitting townspeople are burned to a crisp, the local police force frantically searches for the missing kids, unaware of their new and deadly powers. Don't get hugged by these kids, because if you do, they'll basically melt you. So yeah, weird premise. Kids in a school bus go through a gaseous cloud that turns them into these monsters, sort of, and they come and hug you and kill you. Very strange. Shot back-to-back with Friday the 13th and sharing some of the same crew, Max Kalamowitz's The Children is an outrageous and fun drive-in horror classic featuring an eerie score from Harry Manfredini. That's kind of cool. A little crossover with Friday the 13th. Yeah, I don't know. I like this one. It is goofy and very low budget, and the acting is questionable, but killer kids movies, especially when they're kind of silly, I don't know. I'm kind of into that. I'm kind of into that. And look at him on the back, reaching out to get you. And this one's hugging. Yeah, bad news. This guy's gonna shoot a kid. That's how crazy these kids get. Yeah, it's interesting and memorable. I like this one a lot. A cult item for sure. The Children. Another cult movie, sort of. There's Nothing Out There. That's that slip. What is that? And the back there. Little frog creature, I guess, huh? So this one is kind of what you would... I did an episode with Aaron Pinn on this too. It might have been... I don't know if it was the same episode or different episode, I think, of Just the Disc. So go listen to that podcast. I'll plug that. But this one is kind of like the self-aware horror movie before Scream. I mean, obviously there were self-aware horror movies before Scream, but it's the one that you watch and go, oh, there's a character in this that's like Randy in Scream. It's this guy actually works in a video store, and he's always sort of like commenting on what people are doing in terms of, oh, you shouldn't do that. We're at a cabin in the middle of the woods. Like, that's a terrible idea. And so this group goes out to this, it's like not a total cabin. It's like a nice little condo in the woods kind of. And they start getting attacked by this guy. Frog guy. Which is silly, and it's supposed to be silly. You know, it's a movie that's aware of its ridiculousness. And it comments on it. And there's even an incredibly meta scene where one character is trying to escape from the monster, and he swings on the boom mic pole, basically. You know, you get to see the crew for a second, and he swings on the boom mic pole and gets out of the way. It's very silly, but it's clever, you know? It's a fun, clever movie, and one of those that if you saw Scream, this might be the kind of thing that somebody would recommend to you. In fact, I believe Joe Lynch is a big fan of this, because director Joe Lynch, that is, he is on the commentary with the filmmakers and cast, and he tells a story on that commentary about working in a video store and recommending this movie to people who love Scream if Scream was checked out. And I'm not saying it's not polished, you know, it's very low budget, but in terms of that meta horror, you know, that characters commenting on being in a horror movie, if you don't find that annoying, and I find it fun most of the time, this is one of the early examples of that. This disc also has some really interesting extras. Newly scanned and restored in 2K. There's a movie out there, a new interview with the writer-director, 40 years of cutting, new interview with the editor. It's got some of the short films by Rolf Konevsky. He's the director of this movie. Something called Copycat, Murder in the Winter, Just Listen, and Mood Boobs. Yeah. But it's a nice special edition, and this is one of those sort of video store VHS gems that I remember I saw when I was working at a video store and was kind of like, oh, that's a lot of fun. Why don't more people watch this movie? It's just because it, was very small in terms of its release and had to build a sort of cult following over the years, and it's definitely a lot of fun. I like that a lot. Okay. Let's see here. Next up, Wacko. This is definitely one where I'm sure some people will be like, that movie sucks, or that movie's just not any good. Your mileage may vary, okay? With Wacko. It's a slasher spoof, and I know some people just don't dig slasher spoofs. I know my friend Elric Kane is just not into this kind of comedy. It doesn't play for him, and that's totally fine. I kind of like dopey, goofy comedies. This one's directed by Graydon Clark, who definitely did some interesting movies in his time. The only one I can think of right now is like Black Shampoo and Joysticks. But he did I want to say Without Warning. He did a lot of movies. He was very prolific in the late 70s and 80s. But this one is it has a Halloween pumpkin prom and a lawnmower killer that returns to this high school, and Jodan Baker is like a really slobby, almost Mitchell-esque cop that's trying to solve the murder, and it's got what's his name? George Kennedy's in it in a silly role, Charles Napier, and Andrew Dice Clay as what's his name? Tony Schlongini. Very silly. Even has his own theme song. But so early Dice Clay, it's fun, but I don't know, it's just goofy, really goofy comedy, and another one that wasn't on DVD officially for a long time. So it was really nice to see this get a nice release. Newly scanned and restored in 4K from its 35mm original camera negative. See, Vinegar Syndrome does it right. Commentary with Graydon Clark, Die Laughing interview with cinematographer Nicholas von Sternberg, outtakes. I don't know. If you like, your student bodies and things like that, this is in the category with that. And it's fun. But your mileage may vary, as I said. Some people hate this stuff. And I'm going to go with another one of these right in a row. This is a brand new one. This just recently came out from Vinegar Syndrome. Pandemonium. New cover. Kind of, you could say the cover's a bit of a misleading thing because the movie's not quite as dark as this makes it look, although it does look kind of silly from the front, which is what it is. Here's the original VHS cover, which I think more encapsulates the movie. Finally, a movie that is totally taste-free. And it says, in 1963, a group of college cheerleading students were brutally slain by a mysterious killer, resulting in the closure of the school they attended. Now, former student professional cheerleader Bambi has decided to reopen the institution as new students arrive. It's not long before the murderer makes his presence known and the bloody hijinks resume. Even worse, the only hope of unmasking the culprit falls upon an overworked Canadian Mountie, played by Tom Smothers. This is from director Alfred Soule, who did the really great sort of giallo film Alice Sweet Alice, which is how he got this gig. And this actually has something called Dying of Laughter, an interview with Alfred Soule. And it's really cool. He talks about this movie. He talks about how he got it from Alice Sweet Alice. He talks about watching old 30s comedies and the Marx Brothers and things like that. I'm a sucker for that stuff. That's something that will come up on this channel is my love for classic comedy. Marx Brothers, Jerry Lewis, Abbott and Costello, all the old comedy teams. I'm into that stuff. It's definitely my jam. And so this movie's even goofier. Well, I don't know if it's goofier than Wacko or not. It's got the kind of sort of quick fire, jokes and gags like a movie like Airplane, but more like Rock and Roll High School, which also, has 30s influences. Alan Arkush would talk about, screwball comedies and things like that would influence him. Rock and Roll High School is one of my favorite movies of all time. This ain't no Rock and Roll High School, but I would say it's the Rock and Roll High School of slasher spoofs in terms of the goofiness of the comedy. I mean, it's got this really crazy cast where you've got, like I said, Tom Smothers, you've got a blonde Judge Reinhold, you've got Miles Chapin, who's in Get Crazy, which just, I think, recently got announced from Kino. That's another Arkush crazy comedy. And this is in league with those, crazy comedies like Rock and Roll High School. Again, not as good, but still. It also has Carol Kane. Let's see here. Paul Rubens is the sort of assistant to Tom Smothers. And, oh man, there's some more. I want to say like Deborah Lee Scott, and there's a few more faces that pop up, like Second City people or Groundlings people. Phil Hartman's in it, I think, something like that. And I guess Alfred Soul, like, looked to the Groundlings to sort of help him with casting, and so he found Paul Rubens there and stuff like that. So I don't know. So it's got an interesting vibe, and this is another one. Vinegar Syndrome's on a roll of movies that never on DVD that I know of, only on VHS. Played on cable a lot, probably played on HBO all the time. So it became sort of a cult item, and people remember it fondly from seeing it on TV, but it's really been out of circulation for a long time. And I just don't like that. Even if it's a movie that some may say, well, that's not a good movie, why should that even be in circulation? Well, there are much worse movies that are in circulation. And this one, I just love when a fondly remembered movie, a movie that people watched 100 times on cable and memorized, they can now own, and in a really nice looking version. And it's widescreen, and it's only ever been on VHS, so it's nice to get it this way. Newly scanned and rescored in 2K from a 35 inner positive. All it has is that interview, but it's a good interview with Alfred Soul. I don't know. I was really excited about this one. I just like my horror spoofs. So, Pandemonium, a lot of fun. And lastly, another movie that some will consider questionable, but Blood Harvest. So this is another, I'm sorry, I just keep reading these backs to you. I just always love to see. I also kind of like how a different label interprets, Indicator doesn't put any synopsis on the back of their discs, and how do people do their synopsis? So it says Jill's returned home from college to the rural farm community where she grew up, only to discover that her parents had mysteriously vanished. Learning that her father, a banker, has become the local pariah for overseeing land foreclosures on local farmers, Jill quickly becomes the victim of a series of strange and increasingly depraved assaults. With her only childhood friend and former lover Gary and his mentally unstable brother Mervo, played by Tiny Tim. That's Tiny Tim. Tiptoe Through the Tulips, Tiny Tim. Willing to believe her, Jill begins to fear for her life. All the while, a stalking masked killer is abducting, torturing, and brutally killing those closest to Jill. An unrelentingly grim and perverse psychosexual thriller, Blood Harvest mixes gruesome throat slashings, copious amounts of TNA, and an unhinged supporting performance from music sensation Tiny Tim. Long available in only heavily cut and gray market versions, Vinegar Syndrome proudly presents it on Blu-ray, finally uncut. 4K from its 16mm camera negative, with a commentary with the producer and interview with Tiny Tim and archival. This movie's weird, and it's got just one of those weird feeling. It's like a slashery, but it's creepy and strange. And again, the townspeople of this town are incredibly awkward, and I don't know. It's just one of those. There's a certain charm to that kind of movie for me when there's like a town full of people that are upset, and in this case they're not happy with her because her parents were doing what they were doing, and she's come home to try and just, you know, chill out, and she just can't. This movie also interestingly has Peter Krause as the boyfriend. Peter Krause, of course, from 6 Feet Under. He's definitely working out his style as an actor in this. Like he's not at the level that he's at in 6 Feet Under, so it's interesting to see him and see what he's doing here. But yeah, it's just a creepy movie. This girl's getting creeped on all the time. There's people getting killed. It's a slasher. Tiny Tim is weird. I mean, again, there's some of these that I would like to go into greater detail, but there's also a part of me that's like, I enjoyed this because I didn't know that much about it, and I would hope that I could give you the same opportunity. But it's a weird one. I'm just going to say, I realized looking back at this pile, I've got a lot of weird movies in here. Maybe I'm a weird person. But it's good stuff, and definitely a movie that even if you don't like it, it's unique. But I don't know, Vinegar Syndrome's doing a good job, and I wanted to just put a small spotlight on some of the titles that I like. And I'll do another one of these at some point too, because they're always doing interesting stuff. Their slate for this year has been really incredible, and their October announcements look really fantastic. So I can't wait to get my hands on those. But if you're not already a fan of Vinegar Syndrome, you should be. Thank you for watching. Leave some comments about your favorite Vinegar Syndrome movies in the comment section below. And thank you.